Good evening. This is a meeting of the Athens Board of Zoning Appeals. The time is 7 p.m. and the date is Tuesday, April 12, 2011. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates, the alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Present tonight are members John Galsey and Michelle Drabel, and alternates Lisa Carson and myself, Kay Towsley. Lisa and I will serve as voting members tonight, giving us a total of 4 voting members present. I am the acting chair for tonight's meeting. Also present are Zoning Administrator John Paskey and Secretary Paul Eschenbacher. The board operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable factors or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard, followed by anyone wishing to speak in general comment, followed by anyone wishing to speak in opposition. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 230703B, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 230710C, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board finds, based on direct specific findings of fact, that each of the following 6 conditions has been supported. 1. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. 2. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. 3. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. 4. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. 5. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. And 6. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property so general or recurrent in nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. There is one case on tonight's agenda, Case 1104B, Keith Chapman Appellant. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our one case tonight is Case 1104B, 8 South Court Street, Zone B2D, Keith Chapman Appellant. The appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 231001, Table B, off-street parking requirements to allow renovation of a building by adding new windows and dormers with 0 parking spaces, where 4 parking spaces are the minimum requirement. Mr. Eschenbacher, do you have information for us on this case?
Just a couple of things. I just wanted to say officially that because of the work that's proposed by Mr. Chapman, it falls under Section 230602A that any significant change or alteration to a building requires that he come in conformity with all zoning laws applicable to the building, in this case parking. Because he doesn't have any parking, that's the reason for the variance request.
And what is the amount of renovation? Is it a percent of a building
He's
value?
rearranging I'll leave it for him for the details, but he's rearranging the apartment on the third floor to create more bedroom space. And thus, because the bedrooms are at the front of the building there, he proposed putting in windows and dormers, as he said in his letter, for added light and ventilation and emergency egress.
And at what point does the possible loss of grandfathering kick in?
Well, one of the laws, or one of the things about, there's a section in 230602 calls about alteration or changing a building. The addition of windows, the addition of possible square footage, makes that fall into place.
Okay.
Makes that come into play.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Eschenbacher? No. All right. I did have one question. Is the grandfathering specific just to the third floor, or is
No,
it
to the entire
it's a
building.
building? Okay. All right. Then, in that case, I would like to call on the appellant, Mr. Chapman, to come and testify. Please come forward to the podium here, right over there by the brown backdrop.
Okay.
And state your name and where you live, please.
I'm Keith Chapman, 40 Euclid Drive, Athens, Ohio. And you have most of the information covering...
And I'm going to interrupt for 1 sec. I just want to make sure before you begin your testimony that you're fine having a 4-member board hear your case instead of 5.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you. I gave you a packet of information that includes sort of narrative covering the important points that I think, and also, I gave you some more information, but additionally, I'd like to make a little statement to kind of reiterate what I'm after and my feelings on the issue. I'm requesting a variance due to the refusal of my zoning permit application. I'm currently remodeling my apartment at South Court Street and now wish to complete the remodeling of the third-floor apartment. This project will include the addition of 2 dormers with windows to the front of the building and reconfiguring the apartment from 1 bedroom to 3. The added windows will allow for more natural light and ventilation for the residents and will offer a means of egress, emergency egress or access to the third floor of the building from Court Street. This project will not increase the number of permitted occupants or increase the living space of the apartment. By Athens Code, I am currently permitted 4 occupants in this apartment, and I am not proposing any changes to this. Additional benefits beyond the increase in safety offered the residents in the community, this project will reduce the excessively large common area in the apartment to a size more appropriate for quiet enjoyment by the tenants. And with upgraded insulation and more efficient heating and cooling, I expect a drastic reduction in energy consumption required to heat and cool this apartment. The work I've done, the other parts of the building have greatly reduced the energy usage. The living space of the apartment will be slightly reduced by this work from a total of about 485 square feet for the bedroom and living room combined to about 450 square feet. The living room in the area will be reduced from about 250 to about 150 square feet, and the total bedroom area will be increased from about 235 to 300 square feet. The other option to achieve the benefits of improved light air safety would be to increase the height of the building to a full 3 stories, but I believe this minimal request I am making is more appropriate for the building. The Athens zoning codes are clearly a tool to be used to protect and promote the proper use of property within the zone it is located, and the interpretation and decision to design my zoning application has denied me those rights. Thank you for considering my request. And I did include, I know the first drawing that I gave you, just the sketch up from the architect, didn't have square footage, so I included that. The next page, which is a little harder to understand, but on the far right side will be the proposed layout of how this apartment will be, and you can see where the dormers will cut out. The left side is its current configuration. It has 1 bedroom approved for 4 people, permitted for 4 people, and a huge living room, which is my biggest issue with the apartment. That's not appropriate for quiet use of an uptown apartment. One of my main tasks is to bring it to a reasonable sized common area and maximize private space of bedrooms. It would be one bedroom large enough for two people with 120 minimum square feet and two bedrooms of approximately 90 square feet. Additionally, just for reference, the neighbor stopped in today to ask if he has very strong feelings on this issue, that he thinks these are rights we should be able to do, and he wanted to know if he could stop by or send me an email. So I included a copy of an email he sent me this afternoon. It's Mark Snyder, one of the owners of Building Neighboring, and not only not opposed to the project, he would be very in favor of it. Any questions?
Mr. Chapman, there's a picture in here, and which one is your building? And there's a dormer in there.
The dormer would be my neighbor's building, the center of it. There are three buildings. Mine's like 27-ish feet. I think they're all similar width buildings, and there's three together that have that roof line, and they're sandwiched between the larger bank building and Full's larger building.
So your dormer is going to be comparable to what this other one is, right?
No.
No?
No. A couple problems with that is it wouldn't meet any safety or legal egress size for it. Dormers added to buildings years ago were really just for a light well.
Right.
Not for any other function of that. But that is a residential floor. There's three buildings. The building on the far right of the photograph does not have any residents.
Okay.
The middle does, mine does too. And that's just sort of pointing out again, which I think I did in my written, was as far as my drive around the downtown business district, I could not find one other situation comparable to where it had been occupied for residential without some form of egress or window on the frontage street. Behind my building is not an approved alley. There's some access that's partially alley, I think, for the beginning of it, but then it's mostly private property, and a fire truck would not have fun getting in there. The trash truck manages.
Yeah, with difficulty.
It takes out the corner post
Yeah.
once a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I guess I'm wondering why wouldn't, I don't know who this question would be addressed to, but I would be I'm surprised that emergency egress isn't required by code up there.
It is. It meets all codes. I'm not saying it's an unsafe. It has two forms. It has a stairway up
Okay.
the front, the doors on the right side of my building. I also have egress
here.
out of the back.
The back.
Right.
To answer your question, Lisa, he currently has one large room up there that all four tenants sleep
Right.
in one room, therefore he has egress out the rear of the building and through the stairwell.
I noticed a deck or something.
Yeah,
Is there
it's
steps
replaced
off
small
it?
Yeah.
individual bedrooms, and then therefore, by code, he would be required to have egress out of those.
Out of each one?
Yeah.
I see.
And my original plan was actually even to make it two larger bedrooms and have one of the dormers for the living space, but that really didn't completely alleviate my desire to reduce the common area space. A couple couches, TV is all we need. We don't need room for 3 or 4 or 5 couches and whatever
Well-
else goes with it.
Yeah, because just reading between the lines, I think maybe you've had some issues with other activities up there that probably are not good for your property.
For the town.
Yeah. That's what happens with large spaces.
And, when this was put in, I mean, it's always, I feel a little funny with the grandfather comment. It was put in, it was one of the nicer apartments put on Court Street in the early 70s. They were done well. They've held up beautifully. And it was appropriate at the time. Its usage was appropriate. And, to me, this is just one more of those changes that we do to a building that's 100 years old to keep it up with what society wants that day and what standards are, because those change, and to lock in and constrain this, it is tough on a property owner.
The apartments directly below this on the second floor is similar layout, or?
No, they're 2 one-bedroom apartments, each
Okay.
approved for 2 people, so they're roughly half the space. And one has the windows on the front of the building, one has the windows on the back.
Okay.
And if you were to proceed with your renovation but not get the variance, lose your grandfather, and you would have to provide parking for 8 tenants
No.
within...
Well, I would...
Well, I mean, that's how the code is written.
Well, I think a really strong reading of the code doesn't clarify that I should lose the parking in any tight-knit sentence. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and we mix it together and we come up with, which is a lot of times what is happening. This time I'm on the short end of that. When the housing code was brought in, with this, the authors had the ability to strongly control what they wanted to control and what rights they thought were so important to the public, and they thought they legally could. They put them in there, and they said there's no changes, there's no grandfathering. Fire extinguishers, lots of things they could put in the code. It's the other things where they, by most laws, by state law, you can't just pull away those rights. You're supposed to have those rights that you've enjoyed just because new laws are made, unless there's a real detriment to public safety. And losing those rights over what is really a minimal change to the property. It's because I'm changing the roof line. It was the definition I got, which is a maybe, maybe not. It's not changing the drip edge, which is typically where you will hear the discussion, because that's changing the footprint. There's no change of footprint. I'm still a 2.5-story building. I will still be a 2.5-story building, or 2 and partial, whatever the definition will be. So this is very, very negligible change to talk about the rights I have being taken off the table. It would not be, I'm not going to go out and play this dance trying to rent spaces, and that's not an option. I mean, Plan B would have to, I have possible things I would do, and I don't know what that would be to say at this point, but it's not to go out and try to pretend that I'm helping things by chasing around some parking spaces that leased and,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
I'm just curious, because this comes up all the time, and when you get a person who wants to rent that place, they don't really insist on having a parking space, right? They are pretty much happy with...
90% of my tenants don't have cars.
Oh.
And when they do, they don't use them. They ask me, where can I park my car? And I know my brother sometimes has some spots, usually the fairgrounds or something like that. When somebody says, oh no, I have to have it, I pretty much say you're going in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I've pretty much grown up on Court Street. I've been in business almost my whole adult life on Court Street, and I like that mixed use of downtown. I wish there was higher density development without parking that would support more grocery stores, more, to have it. You didn't see every student on the way to Kroger's every Saturday. I prefer not to have every car on the road. That's why tying in parking to my building would be offensive to me. Its use is great the way it is. It has been forever. And I wouldn't want to change it.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Chapman? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will read into the record the email that Mark Snyder from Snyder Fuller sent to you. It reads as follows. Keith, I'm writing this email to you to use in support of your proposal to renovate the second and third floor apartments above your store on Court Street. I am a partner in the building next door at 10 South Court, and I'm an experienced downtown Athens property owner for over 30 years, so I understand the issues of property ownership on Court Street. My understanding is that you are proposing to modify the roof line by adding dormers for new bedrooms and renovate the existing space. I believe this is a reasonable request and is in the best interest of you, the tenants, and the citizens of Athens for the following reasons. 1, denying a property owner the right to renovate and improve his or her property can only lead to more aging buildings that are neither attractive or as useful as possible, so reasonable renovation requests should be granted whenever possible. 2, the dormers and windows in the front Court Street side will certainly make it safer for firemen to help the tenants exit the building in the event of fire. 3, the highest and best use of upstairs locations in downtown Athens is for student housing, as it is a preferred housing location for students since it is near campus and it keeps the students concentrated near the campus to decrease the complaints from the R1 family neighborhoods. 4, parking is available at the remote lots, like the fairgrounds, as students living in the downtown area don't need a car available on a daily basis, as they can walk to class and campus activities. They usually only need their vehicle on the weekends. And 5, in an era of shrinking state funds, the university and the state of Ohio should use their limited resources for their primary purpose, educating students, and let the private marketplace provide the funds for meeting student housing needs, which is preferred by most students anyway. Thanks for your consideration, and I encourage the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve this request by Mr. Chapman. Respectfully submitted, Mark Snyder, 44 Elmwood Place, Athens, Ohio. Since there is no audience to comment on the various requests, on the variance request, I will close the testimony from the floor, and we will consider the case. Is there a motion to consider the variance?
Okay, I think we should correct, you brought up a good point, we probably should throw in that second floor with the 4 beds in there, probably should say 8 parking places.
Okay.
So instead of saying 0 where there's 4, it should be 0 where there are 8, if that's how you want to phrase the motion.
All right, who wants to do it? Who's going to, I'll do it.
Go for it.
I move that we, I always forget.
Grant variance.
Yeah, I was going to say
Consider.
grant the variance,
Don't we
consider,
consider?
yeah, we consider the variance.
I think consider.
For 8 South Court Street, zoned B2D, case number 1104V, suggesting a variance from ACC 23.10.01, Table B, off-street parking requirements to allow renovation of a building by adding new windows and dormers with 0 parking space where 8 parking spaces are the minimum requirement.
Thank you. Is there
A second.
Thank you, Lisa. We will now consider each of the 6 conditions, starting with the first, difficulty and hardship. Will there be a practical difficulty or undue hardship caused by exceptional conditions pertaining to the specific piece of property if this variance is not granted?
To utilize the building, I guess, is a hardship for whoever rents or whoever is renting, because I wouldn't personally want to rent a room without a window or dormer or
Or
a
sleeping.
view outside, or, we can't discuss safety in this board, but I think it's a hardship.
Well, and also,
Utilize the
I think it
property.
must probably difficult to rent a 1-bedroom
Yeah.
for 4 people.
Yes.
That's usually not what many students want to do, so I would think that would be a bit of a hardship to rent that space.
Makes sense, thank you. Number 2, exceptional circumstances. Are there exceptional circumstances applying to the property or its intended use that do not, in general, apply to properties in the same zone?
Oh, it's hard to find parking space in this whole neighborhood, so that's a exceptional
Yes,
circumstances.
certainly. 3, preservation of equal property rights. Would denying the variance deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same vicinity, and conversely, would granting the variance convey special privileges to the appellant denied to others in the same vicinity?
No.
No.
5, minimum variance. Is the requested variance the minimum required to make possible the reasonable use of the property?
Minimum.
Yeah, and we've been encouraging renovation of those spaces, I think, with our voting.
Yes. 5, absence of detriment. Will granting the variance be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties or impair the purposes of the zoning code?
No.
No. And 6, not of a general nature. Is the requested variance of such a general or recurring nature that the situation would be more reasonably handled by changing the law?
It's not a general nature.
Not enough. No.
No.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to say before we vote? All right, I call for a vote, starting with Lisa.
I vote yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. The vote is 4-0 in favor, so your variance is passes. Thank you very much. Other business, we need to approve last month's amended minutes. Will someone move to approve them as presented?
I move to accept the minutes.
Someone second it?
I'll second.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment, and
Yes.
maybe we can clarify this. We make a motion, and then we either say yes or no, but we don't consider, considering a motion, it does mean we're considering, but we move to make a motion
To grant.
to grant,
The variance?
yeah, then we either don't grant or grant, but we should say we
Grant the variance and
Yeah,
say yes or no.
I think that doesn't make sense to me, because then the
Because we
person
have always
making the
done-
motion is saying we ought to grant a variance.
Well, usually the way I phrase it is, the board considers to grant. So I
Considers
stick both
to
grants
grant.
in there, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I think as long as grants in there somewhere, that's
Just a consideration is something that we're going to be discussing among ourselves, but yeah, either say grant or consider to grant, I think should be the wording.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So, okay, well, we can always amend the minutes when we get them, or did I say consider to grant, or did I say consider?
I don't remember. I'll check and
I
see
heard
in the morning.
consider.
You said consider.
I'm
You said
certain of
grant,
it.
and then you changed it and went back to consider.
So I said both, I just wasn't clear.
But you're saying that to
Yeah.
consider to grant, okay,
Yeah.
very good.
All right, meeting adjourned at 7:26.
Great.
No, I didn't quite get it.
There will be,
I think we're not there though.
It wasn't so bad.
Are they there?
No. No, it wasn't.
We're not
We're
off the air.
still going.
Technically, I thought the power was there.
They're sleeping back there.